Hello, and welcome to Invitation to Puzzles, the series where we try to invite you into the wonderful world of a variety of puzzles. Today we have a little killer, anti-knight puzzle. I did not see that this was anti-knight before I pulled it up. Okay, so we have a combination of two, we'll say less popular Sudoku mechanics. I'll explain them both in a moment. But let's get into this. So this is by the way, this is by FullDeck and Missing a Few Cards, who are two of my favorite setters. And if you want a lot more puzzles by them, they have a website where they actually maintain a lot of puzzles by them, as well as puzzles by their students. I'd recommend it. There'll be a link down below to said website. Okay, so let's have a look at what little killer means. So these little diagonal things, as you might infer from the title, they're related to killer in that they tell you the sum of something. So this arrow here with the 23 tells me the sum of these 3 digits is 23, and this one tells me the sum of these 4 digits is 23. However, unlike killer, that's all it says. And so if you don't know what killer is or haven't seen that before, then you can just put your fingers in your ears for the next second. But in regular killer, there is a rule that you can't repeat things in sums. Here, there is no such rule. So in little killers, you are allowed to repeat as much as you want. So in other words, if I wanted to make my 26 by making a 9, and a 3 and a 5, that would be a perfectly acceptable way to make a sum to 26 in a little killer puzzle. Additionally here, we have anti-knight. So that is to say that 2 digits with a knight's move in chess aren't the same. So let me explain how a knight moves in chess. A knight moves in chess in an L shape, which is by moving 1 in a cardinal direction and then 2 in a perpendicular direction. Or 2 in a cardinal direction and then 1 in a perpendicular direction, if you want to think about it that way. So, in other words, a knight on a chessboard could move from this square to this square, or this square to this square, and in fact, actually could move to any of these squares. So if we had a knight here, we'll make the knight a green circle. The knight could move to any of these cells. And so what a knight's move constraint means, or an anti-knight constraint, is that in addition to the normal Sudoku rules, you also aren't allowed to put any digit in a cell that it would see by knight's move. In other words, in a cell that's a knight's move away. So normal Sudoku would tell you you're not allowed to put a 9 in any of these cells. That's just regular Sudoku. It says none of that. Well, except for this one, I suppose. That one is a 9, so it's allowed to have a 9. The anti-knight rule adds to that you're also not allowed to have a 9 in any of these cells, which are a knight's move away from the 9. Those are the rules of the puzzle, so you can go ahead and give it a try in the link below, and I'll go ahead and do it myself. So the first thing to note is that there are some totals that are given how they have to be made. And so what do I mean by that? By that, I mean, well, this 4 here tells me that these 2 cells add to 4. Well, there's a very small number of ways to make 2 numbers add to 4. And in fact, the only way that actually works Sudoku-wise is to make it 1 plus 3. 2 plus 2 wouldn't work because it would put 3 2s in the box, which is too many 2s by a factor of 2. Or I guess by a factor of 1.5, depending on how you count. So you can notice that. Likewise, this 7 here in 3 cells has to be 1, 2, 4. Now, here's where that distinction between killer and little killer comes up. I could make these 3 cells, say, sum to 7, without it being 1, 2, 4. And so I have to be a little bit careful because I'm allowed to repeat digits in sums. I have to be a little bit careful. But actually, here I can't repeat digits in this sum just because all 3 of these are in the same box. So this has to be 1, 2, 4. And Sven has kindly informed me that this is not a 2. This is the only way to make 7 in 3, and the way you can see that actually is to think about, well, how are you going to make 6 in 3? And think about the minimum. The least I could possibly do is 1, 2, 3. Oops. And that actually is already 6. But because these have to be 3 different digits, just by Sudoku rules, I can't do better than, or I can't do smaller than 1, 2, 3. And so that's 6. And then when I go to 7, I have to increase this by 1, which means I have to increase exactly one of those numbers by 1. And the only way I can do that is to increase the 3. Because, for example, if I increase the 2, it would become 3, 3, 1, which does add to 7, but would be difficult in the box. Okay. Decorated around the outside of the grid, we also have the sort of the opposite of that, which is the biggest possible. So the biggest possible that you can get in 3 digits is 7, 8, 9, which is 24 if you add that up. You'll see that's not an 8. So we can fill in that, and 23 is one less than 24, so this has to be 6, 8, 9. Okay, notice I can't also do this 23 diagonal, and the reason I can't also do this 23 diagonal is because this 23 diagonal is 4 cells long instead of 3 cells long, and those 4 cells have some issues with where they are located, in that 2 of them can even be the same, so I have to be a little bit careful about that. Okay. What seems appealing... Oh, I should notice, by the way, also, I missed this in my original scan. 16 is the analog of 4. 16 and 2 can actually also only be done in one way. It can only be 7, 9. Because the maximum of 2 digits is 8, 9, which is 17. You've got to decrease it by 1, and you've got to be 8 plus 8, which I can't do, or 7 plus 9. Okay, so remember, by the way, this notation here is very important. The center marks here, what they're saying is this cell and this cell, they're each a 1 or a 3, which means that together they're a 1, 3 pair, meaning that one of these is a 1 and one of these is a 3, because they can't both be 1 and they can't both be 3. Likewise, these are a 6, 8, 9 triple. They contain one of each 6, 8, and 9. That means actually these 3 digits actually only have 3 possibilities, and let's see what they are. We've used the 1, 2, 3 in the box. We need a 4 and a 5. We've used the 6, and we need a 7. Okay, so these digits we can fill in, even though we don't have a sum right away. Those are from 4, 5, 7. And I can do the same over in box 3. I'll go ahead and fill it in. The digits that are remaining are 3, 5, and 6. That one is not a 6, I am being told. Okay, so by the way, general rule of thumb, if something has 3 or fewer possibilities, I will fill it in. If I become desperate, I will fill in things with 4 possibilities. So for example, if I were feeling particularly desperate at the moment, I might note that these 2 digits can only be 1, 2, 3, 4, because I'm adding 2 digits and getting to 5, so I can't get to 5 or higher. And likewise for 15, again, this puzzle is letting us sort of think about things from both directions. I need to be at least 6 because in order to add 2 there. So it's either 6, 9, or 7, 8. Okay, so this isn't a pair or a triple or a quadruple or anything like that because it's only 2 cells, which is why, again, I probably wouldn't mark it. Unless I was feeling particularly stuck. Okay, so we have 2 pretty interesting sums now, which are these. I meant that to be orange, but it came out blue, so we're going to deal with it. So the yellow digits need to sum to 23, and the blue digits need to sum to 26. And 26 is pretty big. So a useful tool to ask yourself is, what is the most that I could make, say, these cells sum to? And just to be clear, why am I asking that? I'm asking that because if I know that these 2 cells sum to a maximum of, say, 18, then I know that these two have to sum to a minimum that makes up the difference. So in this case, that would be 26 minus 18. That would say these two sum to a minimum of 8. Okay. Now, if you do that calculation, you might be very disappointed because, well, where did I get 18 from? 18 is double 9. So I could make these both 9 and make these sum to 8. And that, in particular, means that these could be 3, 5. But if you're a little bit more careful, you might notice these can't actually both be 9. And the reason why they can't both be 9 actually is to do with what happens if I make them both 9, which is that these digits both can't be 9 anymore, and so I end up with 2 7s here. Or if you want, basically I break the 16 sum if I make both of these 9, because then neither cell in the 16 sum can be 9. You can think about that one direction or the other, whichever works better for your brain. And so what that means is the maximum here actually isn't 18. The maximum is, well, 17 then, I think, because I don't immediately see a reason why these can't be an 8-9 pair. Oh, actually, I do see a reason why they can't be an 8-9 pair. But I'll come back to that one in a second. The maximum is at most 17. It's actually less than that. We'll get to that in a second. But even as soon as the maximum is for these is 17 or lower, that means I need these two to sum to 9 or more. And the reason why that's exciting is it gets me a digit. Namely, these two cells, if they don't have a 6 in them, they're a 3-5 pair, and ergo they sum to 8, which is not, fun fact, at least 9. And ergo, this digit here has to be a 6, because that one can't be a 6, right? Just looking at these center marks, basically the way to think about this is when I see center marks like this, there's two universes. One of these universes is that there's a 6 in one of these cells, and the other universe is that these are a 3-5 pair. And when I say there's a 6 in one of these cells, there's a 6 exactly here. Okay, and because they can't be a 3-5 pair, it would make the sum too little. This has to be a 6. Okay, and we see that that 6 grabs me a free 9 over here. And go ahead and get that. I'm curious, by the way, if this is marked as anti-knight. Okay, so yeah, we'll talk about that in a second. But this will actually conveniently tell you I'm not actually allowed to make this digit an 8. Okay, so let's go back to what the actual maximum of these cells is again. And so I said, okay, well, I could put a 9 in one of these cells. That's probably okay. I can't put a 9 in both of them. And I can't put an 8 in either of them because they both see this 8 by knight's move. So I think that makes the maximum of these two cells 7, 9, which is 16. And I think that's great, because if the maximum of these two is 16, plus then that one is a 6, so that's 22, then in order to get to 26, what that's telling me is I need this digit to be a 5. Because it needs to be at least 4. A 3 won't do it. Or if you want to think about the logic the other direction, if I make this a 3, the most I can make this is 9 plus 9 plus 7, and that's only 25, and it has to get to 26. Okay, so again, whichever way works for you. That's a 5, that's a 3, which makes that a 1 and a 3. That's doing a bunch of Sudoku logical damage, I see. Like that. Okay, this has become not a 5. Thank you to the magic Sven. Okay, and so now, let's look at this. Now these sum to 11, and so now I can actually, I don't have any maxes or mins to think about anymore. Now I get to just think about these cells, and these two cells have to sum to 15. Now there's two ways to sum to 15. There's 7, 8, which these cannot be, because neither of them can be 8. And the other is 6, 9, which these therefore must be. Note, by the way, if this sum were 16 instead of 15, I would have to remember that it was possible they could be 8, 8, even though I'm used to thinking about that not being possible. And it was a bad example, because neither of them can be 8, but you know what I mean, hopefully. Okay, so these are now a 6, 9 pair. Okay. What am I doing with said 6-9 pair? I'm sure the answer is something. Let's see. I see something, but it doesn't look immediately useful. So maybe I want to come over here now and play the same game with this 23 sum. I don't think that's going to be useful. Maybe I want to do some Sudoku. That seems plausible. Hmm, See, I'm also noticing this given 5 is living along the 18 little killer, which is interesting. So let me go ahead and give this a color and see if it's interesting or not. I'm not quite sure until I talk it through. So the reason I think it might be a little bit interesting is that these two digits both have to be at least 4. And the reason for that is because there's a 1, 2, 3 triple in the box. So if I were to center mark these, which is a little bit silly, but admittedly I'm a little bit silly, then they would be center marked like this. They can't be 1, 2, or 3. And this one apparently can't be 6 because of that digit there. That means that when I actually minimize the sum of these 3 digits, it's actually 5 plus 4 plus 5 is the minimum, which is 14. And that's quite interesting because it tells me that this digit now has to be a maximum of 4. If this digit is 5 or bigger, then that has a serious problem, which is that now the sum of this is more than 18. Okay, so I can fill in 1, 2, 3, 4, and I get that that is not a 3. I could probably shave off some of the really high digits from this if I tried. Am I inclined to try is the question. I don't think this is going to be super helpful at the moment, is my overall instinct. That may turn out to be false, but I'm just giving myself a second to squint. Okay, but this 1, 2, 4 is kind of interesting in that it at least appears to be squinting at this box over here. Let's see. We have a similar thing over here with this this 20, where these two digits actually, if you look at them, they can't be 6, 7, 8, or 9. So these two are at most 4, 5, meaning that these two have to sum to at least 11. Well, that's not at all interesting, I regret to inform you. Is it interesting that this digit can't be 6 or 8? And if you don't see immediately why this digit can't be 6 or 8, you might take a moment to squint before I give it away. Which is that this digit can't be 6 or 8 because it actually sees that cell by Sudoku and that cell by Knight's Move. And so this is the weird stuff that happens in Anti-Knight. So maybe this cell is more restricted than I'm giving it credit for. So I'm going to do something that I enjoy doing that you probably should never do, which is to just jam all the digits in here and see what happens. So this digit can't be a 1, 2, or 3. Sven happily tells me the 2, by the way, if you're missing it, is by Knight's Move. Can't be a 1, 2, 3. It can't be a 5. Okay, and I just said it's not a 6 or 8 because it sees those two cells by Knight's Move. I feel like this probably isn't intended, but it might be, so I'm going to use it, which is that I actually know that one of these two cells is a 9. And that has to do with the fact that I know that these two cells for the math earlier had to be a 6-9 pair, and these two are a 7-9 pair. So in other words, there's 2 9s in these 4 cells. And that means that one of these two is a 9 and one of these two is a 9. So in fact, that actually tells me that neither of these digits is ever a 9. Okay, so this digit is a 4 or a 7. Is that interesting? Okay, so now I kind of want to maximize the sum of these digits and see if it tells me anything interesting. Okay. I think it does tell me something interesting, actually. The interesting thing it tells me, actually, I thought of these and I was like, oh, well, that's already 14 at minimum. That sounds unlikely to be helpful. But actually, these two can't be double 7. And that's because if these two are double 7, it makes these two over here double 9. So it's reusing the 7-9 pair over here again. So these actually sum to at most 11, although I don't know if that's actually very useful, because I was then going to throw in this and say, okay, well, these two are at most 12. So like 12 plus 7. In any case, I guess I can very sloppily say that the maximum of these is at least 12 plus 7. Sorry, the maximum of these is at most 19. I think you might be able to prove you can actually not get to 19. I'll try that in a second if I get stuck. But certainly these two sum to at most 12. 5 plus 7 is 19. So therefore this digit needs to be at least 4. Okay. And it's not 9 because of the 9 immediately above it. Okay. Maybe I should just do some corner marking, because this spoiler. I don't think marking that this is 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8. I don't think that's going to turn out to have been a vital component of the solution of this puzzle. I might be wrong, but I don't think so. We do have a bunch of high digits over in this column. Quite enough, I don't think, but a lot. Oh. Okay. Here is an easier thing than any of the things I was just talking about. Where does 6 go in box 6? Okay, and so by Sudoku, it goes not in any of those cells. But by anti-night, this 6 sees that cell, and this 6 sees that cell, and therefore the only place you can put a 6 is there. And remembering that these are a 6-9 pair, that actually goes back and fills in those. And so we can then fill in that 7 actually gives me that 4, that 5, that 2 coming over here. So these are a 4-7 pair, and now I can do math in theory. So these two are a 4-7 pair, so they sum to 11, plus 4 is 15. That means this digit needs to be an 8 to get to 23. Now, thank goodness for Sven, because Sven immediately tells me that 8 sees that 6 by anti-night, which can be a little bit tricky for me to see sometimes. Let's see, that's not an 8, so that's not a 6. That is not an 8 either. Okay, so we got a bunch more with those. What else am I doing? Probably something. Has this somehow revealed the secret of the 5? I do see, although I don't love it, that if I ask where 5 goes in box 7, it's kind of funny because it gets ruled out of all of those and all of those by regular Sudoku, that by the fact that I've center marked it as not being a 5, and that by anti-night. So actually one of these two is definitely a 5. And so maybe that's useful, actually, in some way. Maybe. Because it tells me that these 4 digits are a 5, a second 5, and 2 digits that add to 8. So my 2 digits that add to 8 probably don't include a 9 or an 8, for that matter. Let's see. So if one of these is a 4, that's also a 4 in order to add to 8. If that's a 6, then that's a 2, and then I can do 7 and 1. Okay, so I think there are reasonable possibilities for all the remaining business. It's probably also worth noting that when this became only 6 or 7, this became only 8 or 9 by virtue of the fact that these two need to add to 15. Let's see, I see something completely psychopathic, which is that this digit isn't 7. That's probably not what I'm supposed to see. Let's see, the 6 in this box, is that interesting? Oh, no, but the 8 and 9 in this box is interesting. In fact, actually, never mind the 8 and the 9 in this box. How about just the 8 in this box? The 8 in this box is ruled out of all of these cells by regular Sudoku, no anti-knight shenanigans, and therefore that's the 8, which makes that the 7. Which now means that, in fact, on this little killer, I have a 5, and either a 4 and a 4 or a 6 and a 2. I don't have a 1 up here anymore, ever. I don't think I know for sure that this digit isn't a 1. By the way, I should probably mention, why have I not looked at this 20 little killer clue at all? The reason is because it's very middly about what sort of sum it is. So usually the sums with the most pressure are the ones that are either very big or very small. And every time I've sort of mentally looked at this, I've gone, because it looks like this could be like basically put no restrictions at all on these two cells. And so that's why I've sort of followed the clues in the order that I have, is that I haven't seen much restriction. Now it's going to turn out that, of course, I should have looked at this much earlier and it would have been much easier, but what can you do? Okay, so the 6 in this box is assuredly in one of these two cells. What about the 9? Oh yeah, where's the 9 in this box now? I should have seen that coming because I mentioned it before. Where does the 9 go in this box? Now it has only one place. It's there. And so now where does the 9 go in this box? It goes in one of those two cells, but I don't know which one. This cell here is now a 4 or a 6, because actually, if you look at it, the extreme digits, the 1, 2, 3, and the 7, 8, 9 have gone, and one of those is a 5, so this only has 4 or 6 left. That definitely warrants a pencil mark. Let's see. So this is a 1, 2, 4, or 6. I'm not completely in love with that. It's possible I should be doing more Sudoku. Let's see, what about 2 in this box? I don't think that's quite restricted enough. What else do I have? Let's see, I've got some 9s, some 3s. Oh yeah, I've got some 4s, but, oh. I have 8 digits in row 1, and this is a good Sudoku tip. If you have 8 of the digits in a row, column, or box, you can probably find the last one. Namely, this is not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it could be 6, so it probably is, and then it's not 7, 8, or 9. So this is a 6. In fact, actually, I also could have done that by asking where 6 went in this box, so not doing any favors for people who say I'm bad at scanning at the moment. Let's see. What about... Oh, I see, I think. Do I? Where does 6 go in this box now is what I'm asking. And so I think 6 in this box is actually now going to tell me something through the weird machinations of anti-knight, because 6 is ruled out of this T by Sudoku now, but it's ruled out of that cell by anti-knight. And what that means is that one of these two cells is the 6 for this box. And therefore, that is not a 6. So it's a 4-5 pair, and that's the 6, is what I have just learned. But now I can do math again, because now I know that this is a 5 plus a 4 and a 5 is 14, plus then I need a 4 to go here. And this is the other 1, 2 in column 1. I don't think I know anything about the other 1, 2 in column 1 just yet. Okay. Now, I was kind of hoping that was going to provide me some more clarity about what it is that I'm looking at in this box, because I don't really want to think about this 20-sum yet, but maybe I should want to think about it? Should I? What I should be thinking about is where 9 goes in column 7. That is the question that I should be asking myself. Take a second and convince yourself that 9 is actually placed in column 7. And this requires a couple things that are slightly tricky to see. So one of them, okay, the easy thing to see is that the cells that have a digit in them that's not a 9 are not where the 9 goes. That's not a 9 because it sees a 9 directly by Sudoku. These aren't 9 because it sees a 9 by Knight's move. And then actually this cell isn't a 9 because it sees that 7, 8, 9 triple, and therefore that digit is where the 9 goes. So that's a 9, that's an 8, that's a 7. So that gives me that order, which assuredly must do something, right? I see it tells me one of those two is a 7. It tells me one of these two is an 8. Okay, this digit's now small. In fact, this digit is very restricted. So I think now we're finally going to get to do something with this 20 little killer. Because I see this digit can't be 6, 7, 8, or 9 is the first thing I saw. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. But it's actually not 3 or 4 either. So this is assuredly only from 1, 2, or 5. Now, what about this one? This one can be a 7. It can't be a 5, 6, 8, or 9, though. So it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, or a 7. And so the thing I said before when I briefly looked at this, I think is going to be useful now. What's the maximum that these two cells can be? The maximum they can be is 4 and 5, which add to 9. Which means I need to make these two cells add to at least 11. Well, this cell's at most 5, therefore this cell needs to be at least 6. It gets a little bit easier to do this back and forth head math over time. So therefore this needs to be a 7. That's the only digit that's at least 6 that this cell can possibly be. But now these two are at most 9, plus 7. That happens to be, when I say these two are at most 9, what I mean is these two are at most 4 plus 5 plus 7, that's 16. So this needs to be at least 4. Now it can only be a 5. Okay, and ergo, if I look at these two now sum to 8, and there's only one way they can sum to 8, which is being 3 and 5. They can't be 2 and 6 or 1 and 7. So these are a 3-5 pair. Sven has kindly pointed out that that's resolved. And now these two add to 5, and they don't have a 3 in them, so they have to be a 1-4 pair. I probably should chase this over here as well. Oops, I put that in the wrong place. 4, 1, 4. This is not a 2. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's only one digit left in this column. I'll make a difference by noticing this time. And in this row, I'll also try and notice that there's a 1 there. And now I think all of our little killer clues are done. And so now we hope that Sudoku will rescue us from all of our sins or whatever. Okay, so I guess, yeah, we should probably just enter each of these triples. So in this triple, there's a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and a 7 and an 8. And so conveniently, that makes that a 7 at least by the magic of the fact that that cell's not a 7 by Anti-Knight. Again, thank you to Sven for the conflict checker. By the way, if you're not getting that, if it's not showing up as red for you, you can go in the options, and then you can go to, it's somewhere in here, conflict checker. There you go, and you can turn conflict checker to on. If your conflict checker is set to classic Sudoku, then it won't check things like killer cages and anti-knight if those are present. Let's see. These are a 1, a 3, and a 5. So that one seems to be the 3, the 5, and the 1. Okay, and we'll just do that sort of wrapping around here. So we've got here, there's a 2, a 3, and a 9. So that is the 3, the 2, and the 9. These are, well, one of them's a 1. There's a 4, and hopefully a 7. Good, that's the 7, that's the 1, that's the 4. These are 4, 6, and 9. We got that order too. These are 2, 3, and 8. So there is an 8, a 2, and a 3, and a 2, and an 8. We're almost done. So this column, we've got a 1, a 2. We still need a 3, which goes there. We still need a 4 that, nope, we don't still need a 4. That was a lie. Let's try again. We still need a 5 that goes in one of these two places. And let's see, we got the 6, 7, 8, and we still need a 9, which goes there. Okay, so these are a 1, which I see is placed there. So I'll put a 3 in it. Let's see, with 2, 3, 4, or 5, we need a 6 in one of these two cells, and a 7 in one of these two cells, and assuredly one of these sees a 6 or a 7. This one I'm told sees a 7. It does by that anti-knight. Okay, and so now I should be able to just place every number in the box if I double-click it, because now I've got everything except this. So if I double-click the 7s, we'll see that that's a 7. If I double-click the 2s, I will see that that's a 2. If I double-click the 1s, I will see that that is a 1. Let's see, 3s, 4s. Oops. I have to click the right place. My mouse has decided for some reason to speed up to lightning speed, and so I've been learning to live with that. Let's see, that's a 5, because every time I fix it, it fixes itself back. Okay, there's the 8. Okay, and if I highlight the 9s, oh, sorry, what did I skip? Oh, I skipped the 6s. Where do you think the 6 goes? I have a guess. I think it goes there. Haha! And we got the correct solution. Lovely puzzle there, and a great introduction to both of these mechanics. So I hope you've enjoyed this little venture into Little Killer and Anti-Knight. We do post these videos 3 days a week, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So I hope you'll be back soon for another invitation to puzzles. But that's all for now. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.